serving the Republic of the Philippines for more than 75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday led the nation's commemoration of the 125th anniversary of the First Philippine Republic at the historic Baraswain Church in Malolos City, Bulacan Province. This year's celebration forms part of a series of activities on the 125th anniversary of the Philippine Independence and Nationhood 2023 to 2026, which honors the events leading up to the country's independence from 1898 to 1901. According to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, or NHCP, the First Philippine Republic was established after the adoption of the Malolos Constitution of 1899, which replaced the revolutionary government created by President Emilio Aguinaldo in 1898. This was considered Asia's first democratic republic that served as an inspiration for other Asian republics. Let's listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
We are gathered here today where the cornerstone of our republic was first laid, where our journey to nationhood was catapulted forward by the unstoppable will of our people to be free. We draw strength from what has transpired on these hallowed grounds 125 years ago. The same force drives us today to attain the vision that was set forth by our founding fathers. Under challenging times, in a changing world with complex problems, the history made here continues to inspire us to overcome the obstacles that stand in the way of our nation's march to progress. The architects of Asia's First Republic chose this church to unfurl before the world our blueprint for a nation, with a complete plan designed to shelter people under a canopy of rights wide enough to host diverse ideas and strong enough to protect lives, freedom, and property. They enshrine democracy's vibrancy and virtues in the Constitution, as they wrote, a Bill of Rights, an elected legislature, an independent judiciary, which today are hailed as some of civilization's greatest achievements. In these halls, the new nation is made, and its debut before the world unveiled a democratic order based on the rule of law. To a world skeptical of a former colony's capacity for self-rule, the Malolos Republic erased all doubts. To the Filipinos who liberated their own selves by blood but were doubtful that the promises of a revolution could be redeemed, the Malolos Republic raised their hopes once again for a brighter tomorrow. We continue to live in the infrastructure of the state that they had envisioned. The rent we pay, so to speak, is what is expected of us as stewards of that legacy, making our economy sound, our democracy stable, our future secure, and our nation strong. So today, as beneficiaries of their heroism, we pledge to continue to pay those dues. For that is the only way that we can honor those who founded this republic, those who fought for its ideals, and those who fell in the war. And the fight continues up to this day. Because while the great cause of freedom endures, it still faces threats, some shocking, some subtle, but all met with the same resolve. To those who trample our sacred shores, the spirit of Malolos commands us to resist you, for the territory our forefathers fought for is unconquerable. But the wars we fight today involve no armies to be crushed or trenches to be overwhelmed. They require no bloodletting, no rushing of barricades. They are harder to vanquish, and they exact a toll of hunger, poverty, and disease that claim more lives than any armed conflict. Their defeat requires the new weapons of the day, forged by patriots, to be wielded against enemies neither take no prisoners nor seize or cede any ground. We have been waging a war against hunger with farms as battlefields, because a republic that does not feed its people will be consumed by their anger. We have been building better and more hospitals and schools, for our democracy can only be healthy and informed if we are free from sickness and ignorance. We have been bringing water and energy to every home, for freedom cannot bloom when people are parched and their homes remain dark. We have been working for the higher income and better jobs to emancipate our people from the bondage of poverty. For a republic is impoverished if only a few are enriched. The fruit of democracy tastes bitter to those who cannot partake. We have been striving for equal treatment before the law, for rich and the poor alike, and for the speedy dispensation of justice. After all, if justice can be bought or delayed, so too can freedom. We have been cleaning and lighting our streets to free our people from fear, for crime and disorder do not only affect life, liberty, and economy, they paralyze our people, shred our social fabric, and prevent the pursuit of happiness. We continue to be unrelenting in securing peace from all quarters, for freedom cannot thrive in chaos. It cannot exist with those who preach intolerance or seek tyranny. Most importantly, we have been working to forge a national unity based on ideals larger than ourselves, for a cause higher than we are. A divided republic can never prosper. When fractured into tribes, cliques, and factions, its attention is divided by the petty, and its energy is distracted away from the grand dreams we have for our nation. These cracks were present when the Malolos Republic was born. Nonetheless, these fissures did not prevent our cohesion into a republic. But on the contrary, it fueled the imperative that our fragmented island shall rise as a united nation. This remains the vision with which we are guiding our nation today. Bagamat mahigit isang siglo na ang nakaraan, isinasabuhay natin taon-taon ang diwa ng kabayanihang ipinamalas sa atin ng ating linlahay. Higit pa sa mga pagsariwa ng kanilang kadakilaan at mga sakripisyo, binibigyang buhay natin sa ating puso at mga gawa ang kagitingan, katapatan at pagmamahal sa bayan. Ngunit hindi maikakaila na patuloy pa rin ang laban ng bayan sa banta ng sakit, ng kahirapan, kalamidad, at iba pang uri ng mga panganib. Kaya naman, makakaasa kayong magiging karamay ninyo ang pamahalaan sa pagharap sa mga pagsubok na ito. Patuloy kaming nagsisikap na pangangalagaan ang ating mga kababayan mula sa iba't ibang uri ng katawalian, pang-aabuso, kawalan ng katarungan. Ang bagong mukha po ng pamahalaan sa ilalim ng bagong Pilipinas ay may mga matang mula sa mga suliranin. May mga taimtim na nakikinig na hinaing ng sambayanan. May boses na handang magtanggol sa naaapi at hinggit sa lahat, may pusong naglilingkod para sa mas maginhawang buhay ng bawat Pilipino. Bawat isa sa atin ay may tuturing na bayani ng ating makabagong panahon. Tayo ang tagapangalaga ng ating henerasyon. Kagaya ng mga haligi ng Republika ng Malolos, Paigtingin natin lalo ang pag-ibig sa bayan upang maisulong natin ang isang mapagpalaya, mas maunlad at tunay na maginhawang bagong Pilipinas. Mabuhay ang mga Pilipino, mabuhay ang ating Republika.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday led the official launch of the Lung Center of the Philippines, or LCP, and National Kidney and Transplant Institute, or NKTI, Lung Transplant Program. The Lung Transplant Program is a significant milestone in improving healthcare services in the country, as it will provide access to life-saving treatments for lung transplant patients. LCP and NKTI were both established through presidential decrees in 1981 signed by President Ferdinand E. Marcos Sr. They serve as specialized medical centers to address specific health concerns in the Filipino population. Let's listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Today we celebrate the collaboration of two hospitals, which more than neighbors are partners in battling diseases that inflict pain on our people and on their pockets as well. They also share one significant trait, and that is courage, in full display when COVID-19 was on a rampage. The trenches, where frontliners in white coats made their defiant stand, run through these two hospitals. You saved many, many, many lives. If there is one postcard of grit which captured your stubborn resistance, it was that of the Lung Center personnel, fashioning PPEs out of garbage bags in the very beginning when we could not get enough of these PPEs, when the influx of patients overran all our supplies, as we were unprepared for such a plague that to befall our country. And when I saw that picture captioned with a call, "Laban lang," ito yata ang fighting slogan nyo, "Laban lang." I found myself catching my breath, what breath I could catch, because I was suffering from COVID myself and was still trying to recover. It was unfortunate because it's the first time in my life that I go to the doctor and I ask them what's happening to me, and the doctors would tell me, "We are not quite sure." And the next question, of course, is how do I get better? And the answer also is, well, we'll try everything, but we're not quite sure yet. Of course, we have grown. It has improved greatly since then. And that is something, then that is why the Lung Center, having been a long-time asthma and allergy sufferer, has been something that I can understand and sympathize with very, very closely. Nais namin ipaabot ang aming taus-pusong pasasalamat dahil sa inyong katapangan. Your gallant acts do not fade with time. Then gratitude has no expiry date either. In LCP and NKTI, these words ring true. Never was so much owed by so many to so few. While the pandemic is over, the diseases which prompted the establishment of the LCP still remain, and in increasing numbers. It is evident in the country's top 10 tally of morbidity or leading causes of sickness, wherein pulmonary-related ailments occupied numbers 1, 5, 7, and 9 in 2022. As to leading causes of death, pulmonary-related diseases took up the 6th, 7th, and 10th slot in the same year. These are more than numbers, because behind them is an immeasurable amount of people whose lives have been degraded, whose dreams have been shattered by disease that bankrupt a family as well as the patient. The partnership between LCP and NKTI can be a template in which hospitals pool their resources and share assets to boost patient care and improve bottom lines. The launch of the LCP and NKTI lung transplant program is an application of the proven maxim that two heads, two hospitals, are better than one. This creates the infrastructure for lung transplants in the country, with the first one to be done within 2024. I wish you Godspeed in this endeavor. I know you will succeed because you are torchbearers of the tradition of bold and brave initiatives upon which medicine has advanced and diseases have retreated. It is the same grand vision which prompted the establishment of the LCP and the NKTI and the Heart Center during an era when great things were not only dreamed of, but developed. Build Better More is of the same ethos, which should animate us today to march forward instead of just running in place. We should stop being content with the piecemeal or belittle big dreams as too ambitious, too difficult, but instead embrace the audacious if we want to leave a better world than we found it. We will begin by learning from the rich trove of lessons that the pandemic has left us. Through the Doctors to the Barrios program, we are training doctors because their development is critical to the realization of universal health care. Through the Regional Specialty Centers Act, we have established 131 functional specialty centers nationwide, 9 of which are designated as lung specialty centers to bring lung care closer to our people. By 2028, we aim to establish an additional 179 specialty centers, 7 of which are dedicated as lung care centers. Through an expanded nursing education program that CHED and DOH is implementing, we are addressing the current shortage of this essential health workforce while ensuring their future supplies. All of these support what the LCP-NKTI lung transplant program seeks to achieve: to provide competent, committed, and compassionate care to our people. So in closing, let us remember that healthcare is our covenant with the people, a public commitment driven by neither political agenda nor personal legacy projects. In this hospital where heroes walked and worked, may this program be a testament to our unwavering duty to serve the Filipinos. I cannot forget my father's advice to me, and he said the first service that government must provide to its people is healthcare. And because no matter how successful a society is, no matter how wealthy a person is, that wealth and that success they cannot enjoy if they're not enjoying a good health. Again, congratulations to the LCP and NKTI. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Maraming salamat sa inyong serbisyo. Maraming salamat sa inyong sakripisyo at ang patuloy ninyong trabaho para alagaan ang taong bayan ng Pilipinas.
You just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued Executive Order or EO number 53, which reactivates and reconstitutes the Task Force El Nino. EO 53, issued on January 19th and signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on behalf of the President, states that the Task Force El Nino is reactivated under the Office of the President. Members of the task force include the Secretaries of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DNR, the Department of Agriculture, or DA, the Department of Health, or DOH, and the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA. The task force will be chaired by the Secretary of the Department of National Defense, or DND, and co-chaired by the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST. The Office of Civil Defense, or OCD, shall provide administrative and technical support to the task force in the performance of its functions. The task force is mandated to revise and update the Strategic El Nino National Action Plan and monitor the implementation of the identified short and long-term solutions and programs. It is also mandated to coordinate with all concerned agencies in expediting the completion of all ongoing water infrastructure projects intended to cushion or mitigate the impacts of the dry spell not later than the end of April 2024. The task force will likewise coordinate with the Presidential Communications Office or PCO in conducting a massive information campaign on the El Nino phenomenon and submit to the President through the Office of the Executive Secretary a monthly report on the implementation of the order. Last year, a National Action Plan framework was crafted to fortify communities against the effects of El Nino by focusing on 5 key sectors: water supply, agriculture, electricity, health, and public safety, and with corresponding key priority interventions to be implemented by concerned government agencies.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has reorganized the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency or NICA in order to strengthen its intelligence gathering and analysis to ensure national security and promote national interest. Executive Order or EO number 54, signed by the President on January 19th, establishes the Office of the Deputy Director General or ODDG for Cyber and Emerging Threats under the NICA as the main component of the agency's reorganization. Under EO 54, the ODDG will provide direction to the overall planning, supervision, and coordination of the NICA on counterintelligence and countermeasures against cybersecurity threats, weapons of mass destruction, and other emerging threats that are non-traditional in nature and have the potential to challenge traditional security approaches which may be unsuited in addressing them. The ODDG for Cyber and Emerging Threats will be headed by a Deputy Director General with the rank of Assistant Secretary and will be appointed by President Marcos Jr. This will be composed of Directorate for Counterintelligence and Security or DCS and a Directorate for Cyber Intelligence and Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction or DCCWMD. According to EO 54, the DCS will serve as the NICA's focal point for the national government's coordination activities on counterintelligence. The existing DCS under the ODDG for operations is transferred to the ODDG for Cyber and Emerging Threats. The DCCWMD, on the other hand, is created to conduct cyber intelligence research using data analytic and intelligence activities to counter chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats as well as emerging threats. It will also lead the NICA's internal response operations, security and safety assessment, network monitoring and information, and communications technology development and management. Based on EO 54, the NICA will have the authority to request the detail of personnel from other government departments, agencies, bureaus, offices, and institutions, subject to the approval of the head of office and availability of personnel to ensure the effective coordination, integration, and fusion of information relative to national intelligence concerns. Constitutional bodies, the judiciary, and Congress may also make a request to the NICA to integrate information or intelligence and coordinate with appropriate government agencies the conduct of national activities involving intelligence or investigation on matters of national security. The NICA serves as the focal point for direction, coordination, and integration of government activities involving national intelligence and the preparation of intelligence estimates of local and foreign situations for the President's formulation of national policies. EO 54 takes effect immediately.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Philippines Congress have almost finished working on the priority legislations that was laid out by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC. According to House Speaker Martin Romualdez, of the 57 LEDAC priority bills, the chamber needs to finish only 4. One of these measures is the National Defense Act, which is scheduled to be approved on third and final reading. Speaker Romualdez said it is important that the Philippines establish a strong defense program and industry so that the country will not rely on allied nations and foreign suppliers of needed armament. The House is currently finalizing a technical working group on the proposed amendment to the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, while the Budget Modernization Bill is still being heard. Another priority measure is the scheduled passing of House Bill or HB number 9571, or an act prohibiting the development, production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons, providing for their destruction and imposing penalties for violations thereof. 11 other measures considered as priorities of the House are in various deliberations at the plenary and committees.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines National Security Council, or NSC, on Monday condemned China's latest harassment of Filipino fishermen off Bajo de Masinloc or Panatag Shoal in the West Philippine Sea, or WPS. In an interview, NSC Assistant Director General and National Task Force for West Philippine Sea, or NTF-WPS spokesperson Jonathan Malaya said, the Philippine government was hoping for the situation in the West Philippine Sea will be calmer, but yet another incident where fishermen were driven away by the China Coast Guard, or CCG. According to the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, a CCG ship deployed a rubber boat chased Filipino fishing boat Legendary Joe last January 12th off Bajo de Masinloc. A fisherfolk from Zambales province, who was one of those on board the boat, said they were collecting seashells near the south entrance of Bajo de Masinloc when they were instructed to return the shells before being driven away. He further stated that 5 CCG personnel on board the rubber boat grabbed Legendary Joe and prevented it from departing unless the fishermen threw back the seashells into the sea. Bajo de Masinloc is located approximately 124 nautical miles west of Zambales province and is well within the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, of the Philippines. Malaya said that both countries agreed to de-escalate the tension in the South China Sea through diplomacy during the 8th Bilateral Consultation Mechanism, or BCM, on the South China Sea held in Shanghai last January 18th.
Dateline Malacañang.
United Nations, or UN Special Rapporteur Irene Khan, on Monday arrived in the Philippines to assess the government's human rights mechanism, particularly on the freedom of opinion and expression. Khan was on board a Malaysia Airlines flight from Kuala Lumpur and arrived at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA. She was welcomed by representatives from the Presidential Task Force on Media Security or PT-FOMS. PT-FOMS Chief of Staff Jairo Go said Khan will be in the country for a 10-day visit. Go added that the special rapporteur does not have an official engagement with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. but will meet with different government agencies. Khan is scheduled to visit the cities of Manila, Cebu, Tacloban, and Baguio, and is also set to meet with the officials of the local government units or LGUs. According to Go, Khan will also go to Leyte province and visit a journalist allegedly facing a terrorism financing case. Go said that Khan will give recommendations to the UN as to how the Philippines could improve the human rights mechanisms. The PT-FOMS official said that Khan's recommendations will help the government address cases of threats, fix mechanisms in government agencies that have public information offices, and address gender inequality.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the local government of Bayambang in Pangasinan Province through the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA and the Public Employment Services Office or PEZO reported that the overseas Filipino worker or OFW that experienced abuse in Brunei Darussalam have returned to the Philippines. The local government unit or LGU of Bayambang said that the Filipina worker was raped by the driver of her employer. Because of the video that the OFW uploaded on January 11th this year asking for help, the LGU coordinated with the victim's family to provide assistance. OWA and PEZO Bayambang immediately processed the request of the victim of returning home to her family in Pangasinan. Bayambang Mayor Nina Jose Quiambao personally welcomed the OFW and gave her cash assistance. She is also set to receive 10,000 pesos pangkabuhayan package from the LGU and additional assistance from OWA and PEZO Bayambang.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, we would like to invite everyone to come and visit our Facebook page at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.